I want to bring on my great mentor coaching client, Diana Gladney. Diana, welcome to the Tuesday Live Show.
Oh, Jeff, thanks so much for being here. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, it is. And Diana and I go way back. We officially started, I believe, working together about 3 years ago.
Yep.
And Diana found me from YouTube, which is another testament to why some social media platforms work. YouTube's been great for me, surprisingly, over the years. So let's jump right into this, Diana, because I want to really highlight your evolution, as I said in the beginning, because you've really come a long way since we started off. But when you found me on YouTube, talk to us about kind of where you at with your business and kind of what were some of your biggest frustrations at that point that made you want to talk to me further.
So when I was first looking on YouTube, I was just searching like everywhere, everything Google and everything on YouTube. And I had already started, like before I thought I was going to get into real estate, maybe, get my first rental property or something like that. But the more I start listening to podcasts, the more I start hearing about coaching and that you could take the skills that you already have, things that you already know, and that there's value in it. It's not just, a pointless resource. And so I started shifting towards, well, I can coach on some of the things that I know about home-based business and small business entrepreneurship because it's not a lot of information out there. It's not a lot of good information. So when I made that shift and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do real estate right now. I'm going to focus on doing coaching. And I was like, okay, well, I start setting everything up, got the LLC together and everything. And I was like, well, crap, I don't know how to sell. And that's when I went to Google, and then I was already into YouTube as far as like searching everything like everybody. And I literally typed in like how to sell coaching. And of course, your company is selling coaching. And so it came up. But the thing that like stood out the most for me, because I was like super frustrated, it's like I felt super confident in what I knew, but how am I going to actually get a client from doing what I know? Because in my history, it's been sucking at selling. So I'm like, well, crap, I really want this to work. So let me see what I can find. And I started listening to all this stuff. But when I came across your channel, you just had like hours and hours and hours of content. So it was just like a library of content that I could just dig into. And the biggest thing for me was that even though other people had like it could be considered good content or whatever, the thing that like was warming to me is like my opinion of what a person that's sold is like, you got to be harsh. You have to be short with people. You have to be, like really cold, and either you do it or you don't, and your life's going to continue to suck. So what decision do you want? And it's like, I didn't want to do that because that wasn't me. And so when I heard your approach to how to like sell and how to talk to people, I'm like, well, this is perfect because I can keep reaching people and really figure out like, as many people, if they follow your content, it's like, do I have something that I can help you with? Like what's your need? What's the timing? And is this something I can actually help you with? And I'm like, that makes complete and total sense. So the fact that I had a lot of content, I could kind of get into the groove of, if I talk to you, what would it be like? I had hours of content that I could go through to kind of like get that feeling. Mm-hmm. So I went through the email list, and then I liked the email that I got back. It didn't feel like an auto response. It felt like a genuine response. So I replied back, and from there we went to coaching.
Absolutely. And that's a great testament. I pause for a second on that is that, because I do put a lot of content out there now. Obviously you do as well. We'll get to that. But as I mentor with coaches, like I'm a real big advocate of that education-based marketing. Mm. And I want to show you, this is why I do it that much, is because it brings me people like you. And it's like, when you came to me, there was already so much value built for what I did and how I could help you, that it was almost like a natural, seamless transition into you hiring me and working with me. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. Yeah. Without a doubt.
And that's why where it is especially if you narrow down who we're helping with what specifically, and like you said, the selling aspects. So it's finding that each for yourself, but then doing it for yourself, people, they'll search for that stuff, and they can find you and they can educate themselves and they can learn about you. So now let's talk about, so we started working together. Talk about how we started to help you and what direction you started to go in.
Well, it's like, so for me, initially, I knew I wanted to work with women. I didn't feel comfortable working with men. It just felt awkward. So I knew I wanted to work with women. I knew what I had been through as far as like the struggles, one, just to find the information, but then two, to really put a value on what your purpose is and what you're supposed to be doing. like the thing that I needed was like, how do I take all the ideas of what I have and all the conjumbled cluster mess of the stuff that I have going on in my head and like streamline this into a business. So the thing like I really loved about like our coaching sessions was like you really listen and let me like talk through all the things that I wanted, but then it wasn't just like a pat on the back. It was like, okay, now do this. And like, I always laugh because it was like that initial part when we got in our coaching, you're like, okay, now you need to do video. And I'm like, you sure? I don't even take pictures. So, and so I was like, well, you're like, well, just do a video today, right now, or as soon as we're done with our call. Now in my gut, I wanted to say no. And like, I was scared. I didn't feel like it. I was like, well, maybe tomorrow, and tomorrow always turns into never. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do it. And he's like, you're going to do it? And I'm like, I'm going to do it. And so from that point on, it's just like having those just little pushers, just something that like those nudges to kind of get you going. That's what I love. Like at the end of every call, I had something to work on, but just wasn't something to accomplish, but something I could feel good. Like I'm actually growing. And it just took from there. It just was crazy.
Yeah. So now take it from there, right? Right. It was like almost like you wouldn't even take a picture, never mind a video of yourself. So you did the video, and then, you know, even in my private Facebook group, I started doing some video challenges. And so talk about that evolution, because that's an important one of you being able to articulate what you're saying and become comfortable with some uncomfortable aspects of it. And I just feel like if you could highlight, you know, that process for you and what you started to learn, what you started to see, and tell them where, you know, where it got you to, you know?
So like I remember, I promise you, like I remember like it was yesterday. So I had a terrible phone. It wasn't even like some great something recently. It was just whatever phone. And I'm like, okay, I have to do this because I have to make this work. So I'm going to every kind of corner in the house, indoors, outdoor. And eventually I went in the car and it's like 80 degrees outside. It's hot. It's just terrible humidity. And I'm sweating bullets, got the Whitney Houston lip sweat going on. And just, it was terrible. And it's just like, I was just like, I could do this. And so I just would imagine from other podcasts and stuff that I would listen to, it's like, just imagine you talking to somebody that you know, and I had already been comfortable talking to you. So I'm just like, let me just pretend that I'm talking to you, which I was and you are. And so like, I looked at it, and the thing was that I felt so good just about that. It was like less than 2 minutes video. It's probably like a minute, if anything. I just recently uploaded that video to my YouTube channel just so I can show people, like, I was so nervous. It was hot. I had to cut the air conditioner off. Like, I'm doing all this stuff that's uncomfortable, but the result that I saw, just even in myself, was like, that wasn't too bad. Like, that looked pretty good. So the fact that like I saw like the thing that I didn't want to do was the thing that wind up like being the best blessing to me was just like crazy. So I took the whole stuff from using my phone, and I started asking and looking at stuff. And then I got your video coaching program. And so that helped me a lot, was just making better videos. But the thing that kind of helped transition me moving forward, I had already been watching people do better videos for like a year. And they kept talking about these DSLR cameras. I'm like, I'm not quite ready. But everything that I wind up doing as far as trying stuff out in like the 30-day video challenges or just the 30 video challenges was that like you always run into a problem. You always kind of notice something like, well, why is it all this kind of like sprinkles in the shot? Why does it look fuzzy? Or, you know, why does my audio sound really crazy? Or why this and why that? And so I just literally started answering my own questions. So by every next second or third video, like I wanted to know, can I make it better than the last one? Can I make it better than the last one? And I just it just started a frenzy of solving a problem of what I previously had on the video and just trying it out in that next video.
Yeah, and I could start to see it was kind of cool, because even as I did the video challenges with, you know, a bunch of people, you're like there was a handful of people that were really consistent right out of the gates, and obviously you were one of them, and then went on to like lap everybody with your videos in terms of volume. But also it wasn't just the volume, it was like every time I watch your videos, I'm like, wow, she's constantly raising the bar, you know, and not only just articulation of words, but also your message. I could see it starting to develop. Mm-hmm. You're starting to get more specialty, and also just the quality of the sound, the video, and your expertise level was improving.
Yeah.
Talk about the evolution of, like I always say, like your niche headline, you know, helping who, what specifically, kind of from, you know, we started off going down a certain area, and then how it's evolved even to now over the past 3 years.
So initially, I think from one of our coaching calls, we came up with trying to help women get stronger and become more empowered, because I felt like a lot of women that I was coming across, they were too airy, light. Like my voice is not even like super light and super prissy and all that, which is fine if that's who you are. But I felt like I was trying to put on a mask to be somebody that I wasn't or would have to. And it just wasn't working out. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not somebody that's going to cry with you for a long time or at all, really. So it's like, okay, how do I get a client or somebody that is like me, that is not, doesn't mean that you can't be emotional at all, but it's just like you're not leading with that. And so it's trying to help women get stronger, become more confident, because I had spent and done a lot of time in personal development. And so I started sharing that message. But the clients that it started drawing from me, or just even those calls that we would do for just trying to, get a feeler if that person has earned the right to get a call. And it's just like, these aren't really the people. I'm turning people down, even though they maybe could be a good fit for what I've been putting out there. It's just like, I really don't want to work. So you need counseling or something, it's like, you don't need personal, so it was off. And I was like, I don't like this. So I wanted to dive more into something that I was passionate about, which was more of the taxes, the home-based business aspect, more so. And so maybe if you're not into, analytics, tech stuff or whatever, finances, then that stuff is going to detract you, but it will attract those that are more into that, which it does. But at the same time, I got burned out talking about that. And it was only it don't take a whole lot of videos to get burnt out. Once you run your course talking about it, it's just kind of yeah, okay, I'll keep trying it. But then I stuck with it though. So I kept doing helping the 9-to-5 woman, because I didn't feel like you wanted to, or you had to go with that whole narrative of quit your job and, screw your boss and this, that, or whatever. I didn't want to lead. For me, that was coming from a place of hate. So I didn't want to lead with hate your job, because it doesn't mean that you don't want to do whatever profession that you're doing, but you have this other passion on the side. And so it kind of went from small business startup to passion of business, to now, which is what I'm running, which is Entree Woman TV, which doesn't more so describe the person, but more myself even. It's like, you have a 9-to-5 job, and whether you like it or love it, or you want to quit it, that's fine, but use that job as the blessing to help propel you forward into living your passion. And that became the narrative, that it's not about the taxes. It's not necessarily about the personal development. Those are aspects of it, but it's more about learning to live your passion outside of your 9-to-5 job. And so I ran with that narrative, which was fine, but it started to get muddied up rather, when I started leaning more into video marketing. And the biggest shift that kind of took place for me, I went to a conference in September, which is called Grow with Video, but it was even beyond that. It's like I started leaning towards more tech stuff, because the how-tos and the how do you do this became more prevalent, simply because if you don't know how to use the tools or to get the look that you want to share the message, it's like there's a good chance that people aren't going to hear you, and you're going to get, drowned down in the sea of noise out there. And so it became more aspect of getting somebody visible. If I can't get you out there to be seen and get your stuff visible, it's kind of don't matter. And so I just I kind of was like, well, I still need to be working 9-to-5 woman, helping you, transform your passion into a business. And it's like, and that worked for a while, and you still get clients for that. But again, once those calls with clients start to become more of a drainer on you and the things that you kind of want to talk about internally, you've already made a shift. Everything else just needs to catch up. So I just needed to accept my YouTube channel and everybody else that was in my following my content, any of my followers, email list, all of that. If you look at any of the analytics, they all were leaning towards all of the more tech stuff, the how to, and how do I get visible. And they had moved from the info stuff that I was just doing about the home-based business entrepreneurship, which is still an aspect of it, but not as heavy of an aspect. So with that, it was like, I realized that we've moved from, in my opinion, I feel like we've moved from the information age into the implementation age, because the gatekeepers aren't there anymore. You don't have to worry about if your job knows you have a business or not. They don't even care really, because whether that market's going to be there for you or not, probably won't be, so it's just like things are shifting in work. Things are shifting with information. Hell, anytime you can have actresses and football players and all kind of people taking public offices and making moves where otherwise it's like you really couldn't move, or kids doing stuff. It's like those barriers are gone. So the information is there, but now you need to learn how to implement it. And so that's why I started leading more into video marketing and helping you to get your small business and video marketing visible, or get yourself visible so that you can actually live your passion. And so that's like the whole trajectory of it.
Yeah. And I hope people are listening to this because like, Diana, you're really smart.
Thanks.
Like, as I listen to you, like it's right the way you're observing the market and the trends and where it's gone, and the gatekeepers aren't there anymore. And in some traditional sense, people are, but not with the technology that we have today in social media. Like you can access people so much easier and effortlessly than we could even years ago, even just a couple years ago, right?
Right.
And so there's that evolution. But what I've always been impressed with you, if I rewind back to when we started, was I have a lot of great students. You were definitely one of the best.
Wow.
And I say that like authentically. And I have a lot of good students. I have a lot of people, like you did the work. Like I just remember, and as I was listening to you again, it reminded me a lot of the things. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this, and you were always, you studied, and you'd come back, and it was a selling aspect of it. And especially when we went back and forth and helping you with some leads that you had, and I would hear some of the things that you were saying or read some of the things that you were replying back. And I'm like, did I write this? Like, I remember reading a few emails of back and forth, and I was genuinely confused if I had kind of written a kind of a reply for you. And I'm like, no, she wrote this. And I remember I said something, and you're like, well, yeah, I just studied what you said. So I was always impressed with that. And that's why I feel like you made the trajectory that you did, and you got great results. But more importantly than that is, and this is what I really want people to listen from what she just said is that you listen to your market, right? You evolved. And when something didn't feel right anymore, and it kind of ran its course, so to speak, you looked at the data, you looked at the statistics, you looked at what was actually happening, and you pivoted and moved from there, not only from a statistical standpoint and result standpoint, but also from a passion standpoint. And both those areas have converged into where you are now. Now, this is over 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But that's where you are. And I guarantee you, we do this interview in another 3 years, there'll be some similar threads, but there'll be another evolution. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
And this is the big piece that I really want people to understand and receive from this piece, is that we're constantly evolving in ourselves. And you've been a great model of kind of paying attention to that and seeing kind of where it goes.
Yeah. It's just like, I think the thing was that it sounds, even like just even hearing myself say it sounds like it was a great, flowery path to skip down the yellow brick road and and all that. But it's like, it was frustrating in those moments of transition, because anytime I needed to transition, I wasn't ready and I didn't feel comfortable. And it just kind of goes back to the point, you have to start before you're ready. And then it's when you do the starting before you're ready aspect of stuff that you wind up being on time for where you're supposed to be. And so like, you can't be afraid to let go of the successes that you had. And I can't think of who said it or what book that I read it in, but it was an author that was saying like your last trophies and all the trophies in your room and certificates, like all that stuff can be a hindrance to you, because you're always looking at your last best self. You're not looking at who you need to become. And that those things are great. And, like, hey, I did this and I got that accolade or whatever, but it never is enough to get you to that next step. It's just that's step one, even though it's the highest on this other scale, it's step one into that new level. So it's like you're going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be scary. You're not sure if it may work or whatever. And you're going to have fears, but so does everybody. And it's just kind of like, you have to start before you're ready. And I always go back to that moment when you told me, it's like, do a video today. And I was just like again, on the inside, I'm like, hell no, we ain't doing no video today. Right. Like it'd be like, how hot it is outside, the humidity, like all these reasons why I could say no. And it's just like, screw it. I didn't hire a coach for me to still be me, if that makes sense. It's like, I need to be who he's helping me to become, which is who I said I wanted to become. So I don't know what it takes to be her yet. I got to do this. And so it's like, you always got to start before you're ready.
And you did it. And I, like I said before we went on too, is, this around the holiday season this last year, I just randomly opened up the mail and I got this thank you card from you, handwritten thank you card. And anytime someone types you something or things like that, especially clients or thank yous, like it's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
But it was really moving, and I really appreciated you taking the time to thank me with that. Kind of starting to close this up a little bit, what do you feel the biggest value was for you with our work together?
The biggest thing I would say, one, it definitely would have to be just the nudges to do what's outside of your comfort zone. And I had to do a lot of that. One, selling. Two, talking to people. Three, even just like the whole, you get somebody that's interested and you like, everybody goes into a frenzy mentally and emotionally. Like, this is going to be it. And I can calculate the dollars. But it's like going through the process of the how to get a clients and taking those steps for doing the selling part of it all. It's like, I was so scared, it's like, so it's just doing those things that I was afraid to do. It just keeps me doing the stuff that I'm afraid to do. And so it's like, even though it's like coaching may have been 3 years ago, it's like those principles, those abilities that helped to like really enable me and take me from where I was to where I am now. It's just always that's there. Those experiences don't go away. And then two is being okay with giving it all away as far as the content, essentially, because a lot of the narrative felt like at the time was that I'm going to give you a half of a tip and then you sign it to my email list, and all the email list is going to be is me selling you on something or me being super aggressive, making you uncomfortable. Like either you're a loser or you buy this. And so you buy it, and then it's just a lead to another buy. It's just, and you just keep perpetuating that. And that's what I felt a lot of stuff was doing at the time. So when I came across where I was learning so much, it was easy to kind of adapt beyond like the calls. It was easy to adapt like the thought process and what's something Jeff would say, or how is the best way to approach that, to not do what I'm going to do, but what's the process saying to do. So it's good to know to give it away. Don't be afraid to share your content and to share your knowledge, because you're doing a lot of work that otherwise you would just be going back and forth. And I'm sure you've had clients where they just like, man, they keep questioning me on why this and how much and that's too much and all these rebuttals. But you take all that stuff away and you weed people out super easy just with having content. But then you also are giving them so much value before they even really physically talk to you on the phone that they're so comfortable with you. And so it's like, it was so much value, just like even beyond all of that, just in giving it all away to lead with an education-based learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll say this is with all that education-based learning, it actually makes selling easier.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
right.
It actually, you don't have to be as good as maybe you could be or need to be sometimes if you don't if you have all that value coming into it. Because even, I've worked at that selling craft for a while, and when I ever get someone that doesn't know who I am really, or that's just come into like even just from a referral or something like that,
mm-hmm.
you can tell the difference on that process versus someone who's like someone like you that came to me that's viewed, X amount of hours of video and education that I put out there. It's a very different process. That's why I feel it's such a benefit.
Oh man, Jeff, thank you so much. It's meant so much to be here on the show, to be able to share what, you never know what sign up to somebody's email list will do for you. And I don't think I can't even say I wouldn't think. I know I wouldn't be where I am today, because first business coach I ever hired, first mentor I ever listened to really. So, and just the first person that really pushed me, and it's become all of this all these years later. So thank you so much, Jeff.